So welcome, and today is Tuesday, January the 12th, and this is the Zoom call for the Ocean Beach Networking Group. We're so glad that you're here, either live or maybe viewing this later on YouTube. And today I'm very excited to have Mike Dankert as our guest speaker. Hey, Mike, and so he's going to be talking, he lives in Mexico. He actually used to live in Ocean Beach, about a block from where I live. In the war zone of Ocean Beach, but now is living in Mexico. And he's going to be talking to us about what it's like to be living in Mexico, and also tell us a little bit more about his coaching business as well. But before we turn over the floor to Mike, we're going to give everyone a minute or so to introduce yourself and what's motivating you to network with us today. And as always, we do this in the form of an icebreaker question. And I know I've said this several times already, so again, Dwayne, I apologize for sounding like a broken record. But the icebreaker question today, for those watching on YouTube, you still haven't heard it yet, is tell us a story about a visit to Mexico. And if you don't like the icebreaker, you can tell us instead, what is your favorite restaurant? So having said all that, do I have any volunteers to go first? And please remember to unmute. Okay, Dwayne, please unmute and go ahead. Thank you for volunteering.
Hi everyone, my name is Dwayne. Today I'm with the Red Spade Theatre. I have two hats that I wear. So today I'm with the Red Spade Theatre. We do virtual shows, physical shows, and we have magicians, and we do kind of cocktail immersive virtual experiences. My story of Mexico, I have quite a few stories of Mexico, but the one I'm willing to share is going to see the Bufadora, which was really pretty. It was a really fun experience. I had a friend that lives out in Tijuana that took us down there, so we really got a local experience. We got to go to a really local restaurant as opposed to the usual kind of touristy trapped kind of places. So it was a really wonderful trip, and just seeing that was really epic and wonderful. So yeah, that's about it really. That's as clean of a story as I've got from Mexico, because I've been quite a few times to Tijuana and enjoyed myself there.
Great job. Thank you for sharing. And let's see, I'm going to just start calling on people. So let me call on Brighton West.
Great. Thanks, Chuck. So my name is Brighton West, and I am a virtual videographer for coaches and consultants and related professionals. And my story for Mexico is going to go back not quite a year. For the last time that I was in Mexico was in February for my wife's birthday. We came down from Ocean Beach. We've been living in Ocean Beach in the winters for the last 3 or 4 years. We came down to La Paz to check place out, and while we were here for the long weekend, we bought a house. So now this is the house. It's here, and I don't know if you can quite see it, but so now we're living in, instead of Ocean Beach, we're living in La Paz for the winters. So, and if you hear a little dog barking, that's because we have a foster Mexican street dog foster puppy. So yeah, I am looking forward to hearing from Mike, because I have figured out how not to do everything, and I hope he's going to talk about how to actually get it done. Still waiting to change my electric bill after 6 times.
Awesome job. So good to see you, Brighton. And also, you guys feel free to drop your website links or things like that into the chat system. So I'm going to go ahead and call on Matt. Matt, how are you doing? Oops, you might be on mute still.
Mute. All right. There you go. Yeah, I was looking at the map. I had to refresh myself on where La Paz was. So right on the tip of the Baja, on the Sea of Cortez side. Nice. I'm Matt Gismondi. I'm a realtor. If you're thinking of selling within the next 10 years, do it now. Prices are great. If you're thinking of buying, I'd say wait a few months. You got to super overpay to be the lucky guy to get it. Mexico. This would be more rather than a story, a place, a recommendation. I went down to Valle de Guadalupe just a little bit before the pandemic hit. I had never heard of this, but some friends go down there all the time. They're building a house down there. It's kind of remote. You probably need a car. You go through Rosarita, take some back roads. You go all the way down to Ensenada and take some back roads inland, coming back up. Probably about equal distance. But it's like a Mexican Napa Valley. There's dozens of wineries down there. It's very, very nice food. There's hotels. It's pretty rural. There's no like center of town where you can stay where there's a lot of action and stuff. There's a lot of Airbnbs. And I really enjoyed it. It's not cheap. It's not geared for Americans either. The clientele are wealthy Mexicans. But compared to Napa, it's cheap. But you just don't look at it as like going to Rosarito or Tijuana. But anyway, great place if you like wine and good food and something off the beaten track, and maybe don't want to be tripping over a lot of other Americans. I'd recommend the Valle de Guadalupe. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Great job, Matt. And I see Marissa has joined us. And hey, Marissa, nice to see you. And because well, you probably figured out what the icebreaker question is, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there again anyway, because Mike Dankert is going to be speaking today. He used to live in OB and now he lives south of the border. He's going to be speaking about what it's like to live in Mexico as an expat, amongst other things. So the icebreaker question is, tell us a story about Mexico, about you visiting Mexico. And if you don't like that question, you can always tell us your favorite restaurant. As you know, I'm not calling on you yet. I wanted to give you a minute to think about it. And so, Lucas, could you unmute and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Lucas Coyle. I actually just moved to Ocean Beach end of November. So I'm on month 2 of living in Ocean Beach. Moved down from Oakland, California. My work has always been in sports. I've been in the corporate partnerships department for the Raiders, the Warriors, and most recently the Oakland A's. So that's actually the nature of why I moved down here. I'm working for the San Diego Loyal Soccer Club. So that's kind of how, that's a little background about me. Excited to meet you guys all here today. Really excited to just be able to meet more people in Ocean Beach and San Diego and get to know the area. My quick story about Mexico, my fiance and I went down 2 years ago now to Puerto Vallarta and loved it. We had a great time. We were there for like the perfect storm where we were looking out over the beach and there was a huge thunder and lightning shower and we were able to sit in a hot tub and watch it. And it was amazing. So now that we're a lot closer proximity, even with all of the restrictions these days, I think we might be able to try to make a trip this year down to Mexico again, and we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, welcome to OB, and we're glad you're on the call as well. And so let's see, we still haven't heard from Terry. Hi, Terry. Oh, don't forget to unmute.
So I'm Terry Lee Ralph, and I run the writing networking group. That's a spinoff from Chuck's, from this one, writer, editor, life and writing coach. I've not been down to Mexico for years, and one of my best friends, she and her husband moved down to Punta Banda. Yeah, I saw La Bufadora too. They built a house down there. And it was really cool just to stand outside and see both oceans by the peninsula, you know. But I don't have a passport or a compass card or whatever it is. So once I get that, and once the COVID clears, I'm going to go down and spend a week down with her again. It's gorgeous down there.
Awesome. Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. I've camped and surfed there at Punta Banda. It is a kind of an amazing spot. All right, so let's see. I think Marissa, are you ready to introduce yourself and answer the icebreaker?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa. As far as Mexico goes, I've been there a handful of times, but I think my favorite time is when I went to Todos Santos, which is also on the Baja, and we just spent some time in like it's little fishing village outside of Todos Santos, and then went up there for a little more touristy stuff, but it was just a really small area on the Baja, kind of an hour and a half north of Cabo. And yeah, it was really neat. I was hoping to make it over to La Paz while I was there, but I didn't. So hopefully I'll be checking out La Paz soon, Brighton. And yeah, I graduated from UCSD with degrees in bioengineering and neuroscience. I worked in neuroscience for a couple of years. I now do bioengineering consulting for a research group. I also am a tutor for any math or science for high school or college. And that's been going really well. So let anyone know if they need a tutor. I have just a few more spots open this semester. But also, I'm recently looking into buying a house and wanted to talk to a lender, but was kind of interested in talking to, I don't know if this exists, but a more non-traditional type lender, since I do run my own business tutoring and it generates good income, but I really didn't start doing that with that being my primary income until March or April this year. So obviously I don't have the background that a traditional lender would be looking for, but if you guys have any recommendations, that's something I would love to hear.
Awesome. Well, great to see you. And I bet Matt, I'm guessing Matt would have a recommendation for you on that. Let's see. I think everyone's gone but me and Mike. So I'll go next and then we'll turn it over to Mike. So my name again is Chuck and I'm the founder and the organizer of the group. I also do WordPress consulting. I help clients get found on Google with search engine optimization and help them optimize their Google My Business listings. And so I am very, very fond of Mexico. I'm estimating I've taken somewhere between 50 and 75 trips south of the border on vacation. And so I'm going to tell you about my very first trip, and that was in 1985. And I was living in Florida actually, and I came to San Diego to visit some buddies, and I rented a car. And so there were four of us, and we took our surfboards and we surfed at K38, had a lot of fun surfing. We went out and had a nice lunch somewhere in Baja, and then we were driving back. We didn't even spend the night. It was just a day trip. So on the way back, we made it as far as Tijuana, and I ran a stop sign. It was one of those really little ones. I didn't even see it. And by the time I saw it, I'd already run it. And of course, I look in the rearview mirror and there's a motorcycle police officer behind me, and he pulls me over. He asked for the license and registration. I showed him my Florida driver's license. And in a rent-a-car, the registration is the rental agreement. So I hand him the rental agreement. He hands it right back to me and he says, "Senor, I want you to read what it says on the bottom of the rental agreement." And it said in big block letters, "This car must not be driven in Mexico." So he told us, "Okay, you guys need to follow us down to the police station so we can take care of this." And my friend, who was pretty, at that point, relative to me, at least experienced about negotiating different things in Mexico, said, "But officer, we're in a very big hurry. Can't we pay you the fine now?" And he said, yes, you can pay me the fine, but it's going to be a very big fine. First of all, you have surfboards in your trunk and you don't have a little red flag. That's illegal. You ran a stop sign. That is also illegal. And we're going to have to call a tow truck from San Diego because you're driving this car illegally in Mexico. You cannot drive this car anymore. We're going to have to call a tow truck from San Diego to bring your car back. Very, very big fine. So my friend said, "Well, how much is the fine?" And the Tijuana police officer said, "Oh, about $90. But we didn't have that much. I think we had 40 between us. He got all the money we had, and then we were very relieved and on our merry way. So that was my introduction to negotiating with police on various things that happened down there. That's it. So for me, I'm going to turn it over to Mike now. I see that it's 12:15. And so Mike, you got plenty of time. If this conversation goes as late as 12:55, I'm going to let you know that we have 5 minutes to wrap it up. Don't feel like it has to go that long. We'll just go, whatever turns out to be natural. So thank you guys all for attending, and I'm going to mute my microphone and turn it over to Mike. Thanks, Mike, for speaking today.
Right on. Thanks for having me. And I love your story, and I love everybody else's stories. They're great. And Chuck, I will probably end up screen sharing if you can give me that permission at some point. So first, I'll just quickly start with my business. And with that, I kind of want to take everyone on a journey. I want to just invite you, if you want to, you can close your eye. But for a moment, just take a deep breath. Let that out. Take another nice, just deep cleansing breath. And imagine years from now, you're older and you're reflecting on life, the decisions you've made, the things you did, and the things you didn't do. What would you be thinking? What would you change? Would there be regrets? Who do you know who would not be happy with these answers? It is my passion to help people create and live their life by their own design, where they're being true to themselves, so we can minimize those regrets and maximize our happiness, our fulfillment, and everything we want in this life, which essentially is basically what brought me to Mexico, speaking of. And with my story of Mexico and everything, I want to preface that I love participation, questions, comments, especially Brighton that's now living in Mexico. Feel free to just chime in, make this a duel if we want, whatever. I don't have a ultra strict specific plan, and I don't need till 12:55. But so my story with in Mexico, first of all, first time I've been to Mexico and out of the country in itself is under 6 months ago, which is crazy because I was nomad for a year. So I bounced from place to place, a lot between Colorado and California. Someone said they just moved down from, I believe, Oakland. I've stayed in San Jose for 3 weeks. I've gone up and down California, number of different states, but never out of the country until under 6 months ago. And so me and Sophia, my girlfriend, we were going to take a little weekend trip into Escondido, if I'm pronouncing that right. And we're driving down and I'm like, hey, that would be a cool place to live. What about that place? Like, I wonder what that costs. Like, what's the rent? How do you buy it? And so we're driving back and she's like, what do you think about actually moving to Mexico? I'm like, why not? Sure, yeah, let's check it out. She's like, all right, when we get back, I'll do a little research. I'll contact the realtor, start making conversation and take it from there. It's like, all right, cool. Then 2 months, moving down to Mexico. So we just kind of pulled the trigger and went for it. So like it's been said, I'm in Rosarito, just a half hour on the other side of the border. It is perfect for getting your toes wet. It's very interesting and fascinating to me. Not only am I actually a foreigner now, but I feel like a complete foreigner. And it's very interesting when you reflect and you think about things. Just like I started off, years down the road, you're reflecting on life. What are your thoughts? Like being in Mexico, reflecting on my thoughts and how I feel. I am no good at Spanish. So it has, even though I moved here, even though I know I was going to, it has not been a top priority for me. In the past month, I've started to learn Spanish, and I got a heck of a ways to go. I'm not near conversational right now. So with that, I think back to my younger days when I was in school. And for me, you know, when you saw the Mexican kid, a black kid, a Chinese kid, what would be considered foreigners in the US, or maybe not even foreigners, but just different culture, ethnicity, background, things of that nature, that's different from the larger crowd that you're with, it's very awkward. It's very scary. It's very intimidating, especially with the different language. You don't know what people are saying. People could be talking trash right next to me. They could be planning out how, when I walk out of a restaurant, how they're gonna take me down and rob me. Or they can be saying how good I look. You just don't know. And our minds can go into weird places and sometimes think the worst and freak us out. So it's very interesting. It can be challenging. It's fascinating where just ordering food or going shopping, those simple questions. Hey, how do I find the dog food? Oh, go down aisle 14 over that way, hang a right. It's going to be halfway down. Like, I can't do that right now. Chuck mentioned about the stop sign and getting pulled over. I am terrified of getting pulled over. I don't know how many cops here know English, how well they know English, how that's going to work out for me. Yeah, it just scares me. And like Chuck said, and with his buddy, that was a good negotiator, I believe his word was, which I love that. I'll have to go back to this recording and use his verbiage at some point in the future, because I'm sure at some point I'm going to have the conversation. And yeah, I've heard from Mexicans over here that, you know, they'll pull over Mexicans and anybody, and you can work your way through paying the fine right now so you can go on your merry way. And Chuck mentioned both of them each maybe had $40 together, $20 each together, and were able to pay the guy, and that was everything they had. So one key hint is, one, be careful how much cash you have on you. Don't have abundance of cash on you, and you might want to have it in a couple different spots, because you might want somebody to think like an officer, or even a worst case scenario, somebody thinking that they got everything that you have, where you might have another little stash of money somewhere tucked in another spot in your car, so you not flat broke after that interaction. And also those stop signs, Chuck, those stop signs are very hard to see. There's so many stop signs around here that for some reason, I think they're smaller. I think they're a lot smaller now that I actually think about it. And it's very easy to pass them. Which, by the way, nobody around here follows stop signs. They don't know what they actually mean. They don't know how it's set up in the US. I go, you go. Like, people just tap their brake, maybe, and are flying through, and it's a little nerve-wracking.
If I can have a second, I just want to add to that, because it is crazy. That's one thing here that's been crazy for me. I mean, La Paz is the state capital. So this is like the big city for the southern half of Baja California. And at any given intersection, you might have one stoplight like in the middle, and there's, you know, 3 lanes in each direction crossing. In the US, they make it so easy to see stop signs where there's multiple stop signs per intersection, or stoplights where there's many stoplights. Here, you have to be so much more careful while driving, because the things that are telling you how to drive are nowhere near as obvious as in the US. Like the US has over-engineered everything to make it simple to drive. Here, it's your responsibility to find the stop sign, even if it's behind a tree, like over on the far side of the road. That's been crazy. So I second your and Chuck's experience with stop signs. It's crazy, even in the more developed parts of the state down here.
Mhm. Yeah, and Rosarito's pretty developed. Yeah, no, and I love that. I appreciate you chiming in, and I'm curious as well, and I'm sure it'd be fascinating for everyone else, all the compare and contrast, because you're hours from me. So
Yeah,
it's,
I also want to chime in on that that thread, as it were, because one thing that, you know, as someone that's only gone to Mexico as a tourist and driven down a lot, you know, I've always been told you should get insurance, Mexican insurance, because your insurance doesn't work. But when you live down there, I mean, I'm assuming then you guys get long-term policies, or, and how expensive, like what does that run you to be properly insured as someone that's living there more or less full time?
yeah, so you definitely want to do that. Sophia took care of that, and I got a file sent in my email saying, yes, we needed the insurance. Here it is. So I know where to go to get it and read it. I don't know how much extra it costs. I believe for actually like consistency for like living in my situation, I don't think it was an outrageous cost. But for the whole day by day thing, when you're going on vacation, I think it's like $10 a day, and that adds up quickly.
Yeah, I want to say, like, for 6 months for a $500,000 liability policy, it might be $200. But we have an old RV, so we don't have comprehensive coverage on it. But yeah, like the day by day was crazy expensive. And an annual policy is like 10% more than a 6-month policy. So the longer you stay, the cost of insurance goes down to almost nothing. But if you're a tourist, it's a lot.
And
But you
then-
have to have it by law. And they say, essentially here, if you get into an accident and you're an American, you're by default responsible. And if you cannot pay for the damage on the spot, that they take you to jail. So you have to have a lot of insurance that you can prove that you can pay it when the accident happens. It has to be Mexican.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say to Mike too, because I know like being terrified of being pulled over by the police, but I will say that as someone that's been pulled over, I don't know, 4 or 5 times and had to bribe my way out of it, maybe 3 times. After you get the first one, you know, it gets easier, and then after a while, you just get confident knowing, okay, I got $40 in cash in my wallet. The rest of my money is hidden away where they're never going to find it. If they get pulled over, I'm just going to deal with it. And it's actually, they're friendly. It's not like they're holding guns to your head or anything like that. So it's almost like you want to get that first one over with, get it out of the way. I don't know.
Terry, you got a question?
Oh, I was gonna say, my friends that live in Baja, I don't drive, and I would be terrified too, but what my friend Tomas does is he always he would wear a shirt with a pocket and put a few bills in there, and just as he's driving or trying to go this side or that side, he just, stick his hand outside the window and give it to the cop standing there, and they'd get a better line or whatever. But when my friend Lynn's driving, I think she just, I don't know, she puts it on her dashboard, but they see it and they think, okay, just to get through the century line or whatever they call it. But my daughter and her boyfriend are planning to drive down there to see her. And I'm so, even though she's done it before, it's just, unnerving. I speak some Spanish. I understand more than I can speak, but yeah, it's always that, it's amazing that someone would go live in another country and not speak the language, but we do it all the time, people, right? And then you figure, oh, I'll pick it up,
Sometimes you just got to jump in.
Yeah, just dive in. Claro.
So a little bit more with some of the car stuff and coming in and out of Mexico. So one thing, yeah, you could pretty much buy anything. So just a few weeks ago, me and Sophia were flying out of San Diego Airport, and her dad went to drive us to the pedestrian border so we could walk over and then take a lift from there. And we ended up actually going into the border crossing line for the cars, and the guys saw how we were kind of reacting, and we were slowing down and like, oh shit, did we make the wrong turn? And it ended up costing us $100, and they said that, which I do believe, that they notified the police, and a guy hopped in our car in the driver's seat, backed us up like hundreds of feet, and then took us to the right road and took us to the right place and everything. So yeah, you could buy your way into a lot or out of a lot. With the border. So one thing about the car stuff, having a car in Mexico, not only the insurance, what is very important, I've heard, is your registration. So you need to be on the registration. Don't be driving your brother's car, your sister's car. Like, if your name's not on that piece of paper for the registration, don't do it. If you get caught, if they want to take your car, the chances of you getting that car back, even the rightful owner getting their car back, I heard, is very slim to none. So registration is extremely important, and insurance. As far as the border goes, I don't ever know of the border being closed. I've heard many people, and I've experienced myself, when they say the border is closed, the border is not closed. So going into Mexico, it's very easy, it's very quick. Most times, most days. If you go on like a Friday evening or holidays, coming in, you might be getting in a line, and it's not going to be terrible, but it could be a little bit. But most of the time, you're getting through pretty easily, pretty smoothly. We've been stopped a couple times, and they literally talked to us for a couple minutes. If that, we don't know a ton of Spanish, and she's way better at Spanish than I am, but pretends to know a lot less at the border. And then they're like, all right, go, just get out of here. So that's nice. Coming from Mexico back to the US, that's where you got your time limits. So average times, you're sitting at the border, and this is without a entry pass, this is without global entry type stuff, just all I have is a passport only. You're looking at about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours are average times, average days. If you go super late, or not even super late, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. If you're going in the evening, like 8, 9 o'clock, something like that, or later, you can go from Mexico to the US very easily. And same thing all the way up to like 5 in the morning. And then after that, it starts slowly creeping up, and those waiting times start increasing. There's also 2 different crossings. There's the San Isidro crossing, and there's the crossing by TJ. So not a lot of people know about the San Isidro crossing. It can be a little bit more difficult to get to, coming from Mexico going to the US, could be a little bit more challenging. And it is challenging. But yeah, so just so you guys know, there is that.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So my vet's in Tijuana and I've used both border crossings, but lately I've been using the San Ysidro border crossing and I found that there's two different ways you can go through it. Have you found that? And do you know anything about that? Because it happened just purely by accident. And neither time was I told I was in the wrong line, but I was certainly in two different areas. So just curious if you, because I'm kind of confused about that.
So I've only gone to that crossing time, and what it looked like to me is there was actually only one line for the normal lanes, and then the rest were Century and other stuff, but I could be wrong. Century, Global Entry. But there were just so many other lines for those, and there were a ton of cars there, and there was only one for the regular. I didn't notice any other line other than the one I was in for the regular.
Because so where I went, there was actually a barrier between the two different sides I ended up on. So I wasn't sure if you knew. The right side of the barrier was just like a few lanes, and then the left side was the one with like a whole bunch of lanes. But anyway, so I was just curious. Yeah.
So having gone through that crossing, it sounds like maybe having gone through that crossing the wrong way, there's a medical lane to the right of the major lanes that has a concrete barrier. And if you have had a medical appointment in Mexico, you can get a pass to come back to the US and skip all the lines. So you don't need Sentry, and you get to go down this really quick way back. They let us like kind of work our way back in, but I don't know if vet appointments would count for that. But they're trying to encourage people to come across the border, I think, by giving them a quick way back into the States. So maybe that was it. And maybe they just let you through because they're like, you know what, you're in this and we can't get you out anyway.
I did have a vet appointment, so it was kind of hospital.
Yeah. So it might, I mean, I don't know, like for certain things you could get this.
There is something. Yeah, I forget what it's called. I've seen it and I didn't look further into it.
Okay.
But yeah, there were for like doctor's appointments, things like that. And yeah, there's certain things that they can give you a pass.
The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is maybe important, being how far south I am, is that when you cross the border coming south, is you don't have to get a tourist or an entry card. They will let you drive right through. And that seems to be fine as long as you stay in Baja California. But if you go to Baja California Sur at the border, they want to see that piece of paper that says that you did officially cross the border and get your stamp for 30 days or whatever it was. But we crossed at Mexicali, I think, and they were going to let us drive straight through. And they looked in our car and whatnot, and they're like, okay. And I'm like, well, what about this? And they're like, oh, go to that office, park your car, go to that office, get your stamp. And we needed that stamp to get our green cards, but we wouldn't have known that until we had driven 8 hours south. So unlike in the United States, when you cross north, they make sure you got everything you need to cross north. When you cross south, they're like, go ahead. You have to know what you need.
So Brighton.
Yeah, and I actually don't have a stamp on my passport, or maybe I do now, but coming from in a car from the US to Mexico, I have not got a stamp ever.
So
yeah,
Brighton,
it's something.
Can you stay in Mexico indefinitely? Or, I mean, do you have, what kind of a visa do you have?
So we have permanent residency visas in Mexico, which is quite a process, but not nearly the process it would be for the United States, but like just proving that we aren't going to be on welfare and starting out in Portland, Oregon and working our way down. But yeah, so we're here forever. We have no requirements, but yeah, typically they want to see that stamp to make sure that you're coming and going as often as you want, as you're supposed to, if you're not a permanent or a temporary resident. But they don't tell you that at the border.
Okay, and so that's where it's completely different for me. So as far as I know right now, and I don't understand, and I'll tell you the reason I don't understand, but I don't, as far as I know, I don't have an address. So I don't even know how to actually claim this place. And even if I wanted residency, like, I don't know if I just tell them Miley So condos at K26 right off the highway, type of thing, without a number, because that's where I live. And so I can't get any packages sent to me, which is why I haven't looked any further into this and I don't know any more about it. Because Sophia loves to order things off of Amazon, and it's amazing we still have space in any place that we live at, because the amount of packages that come in, I don't know where they go. We're not
Well-
orders, the house is not packed, but she orders so much stuff, and there's so many packages coming all the time. Like, I don't even want to know about the address thing. I don't want to fix it. Like, it sucks at times when I want to order stuff, but you know what? It's really helping her spending.
So, well, I can help her with this. So we also, our address is like the same as all of our neighbors' addresses, and it is the street like a couple blocks away from us. So it's on the main highway. So our address is like across from the old Hammett store at kilometer 14.5 in this kind of community that we're in. So it's impossible for anyone to find us based on our address. So we always put our WhatsApp number and a description as to how to find our house. So it's like, here's the address, but don't pay attention to that. Go to the OXXO that's on the beach side of the road at about this kilometer marker, and then go down the dirt path to the house with the yellow columns. So, but we have successfully gotten packages now, and we've seen that we have to train the delivery people. So once like DHL is trained, now those packages make it through, and the UPS people, those packages make it through, but the FedEx ones don't yet. So it is this process of training, because addresses don't, some places have addresses and some don't. And also, you don't need an address to become a permanent resident. We didn't use our address because we didn't know it. That was the other thing, is when we were buying our house, the real estate agent didn't even know the address. So the address is what's marked on your utility bill, because the utility is run by the federal government. So that's what your address is. And they're like, well, we just have the plot number or something. It's very different that way. It is just, it's crazy that anything ever gets done here. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
And I see Matt's comment here. Matt, I'm curious if you mind speaking to it, but the comment says maybe give your house a name like they used to do in England.
Unmute. Yeah, I don't know if they still do this, but my grandfather lived in Dunoon, actually Scotland, and the house was called Heatherley, I guess LEA at the end, and people would name their houses. And this goes way back. And usually you give them street, you know, but they didn't have numbers, and the house just had a name. And the
They still do it.
What the name? Say again?
They still do it, Matt. My mother's house is called Spring Lodge.
Okay, where are you from? I can tell your accent.
I'm from London originally, but my mother lives out in a place called Dunstable.
Okay, good. I stopped trying to guess because I'll say, "Are you Welsh?" And they say, "What? Are you kidding me?" You know.
My father's Welsh.
Yes, I stopped trying to guess. Like, I accidentally thought a New Zealander was Australian, and I got a new.
Yeah, but yeah, it's that they still name
still
the
do that.
houses. Yep.
Okay, so that might be something you could call it Yellow Column House or something like that. Make the name somehow meaningful to the house, and they may pick up on that. Who knows?
Yeah, I've kind of heard that before. Like when our house, the house we bought was called Casa Palapa because it has a palm tree roof. But there are other houses with palm tree roofs. That was what they were referring to it as, at least. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if we can change our name or if we could continue. But there's actually, the house next door used to be a dog rescue. So that's one of the things we've been using, is next to the old dog rescue, because everyone knows the dog rescue because it was really loud. So
people may be dropping dogs off on your doorstep, though.
We actually, my wife rescued one just last week because someone had come across the street and was looking, and she's like, "Can I help you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to rescue a dog. He's, down by the highway and he got hit by a car." And
Oh, yeah.
so anyway, yeah, it's costs next to dog rescue maybe.
Okay. Well, and so our place, we're in a condo, so we're in a 20 floors, 188 unit condo. It's probably less than 40% filled, but the condo does have a name, so there is that. And then either way, so we did not file for temporary residency. We're still considered in the US, have all our stuff there. That's where our income goes, that's where our taxes will go, that's where our health benefits are. So God forbid something health-wise happens, something serious, we could always cross back over, and get the health care over there. So we're just kind of living here, but we're technically not living here. Like, they don't know, it's not registered.
I feel like there's a big difference between living in Rosarito and La Paz for those reasons. Like, it's in Rosarito, you can kind of get away with things that you probably couldn't get away with in La Paz.
Right.
So I read something recently that 90% of Americans in Mexico are not legal.
Wow.
It's probably has something to do with paying taxes, and like there's a like the real, I mean, the article was saying essentially the real illegal immigrant problem is the opposite side of the border. Because I mean, like, we're not paying, I mean, we pay property taxes, but we're not paying taxes on income and whatnot. And like, there's all these weird rules. And so there's a lot of skirting the rules with both foreigners and locals down here. But yeah, so I don't think that Mike's alone and not having all the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
Well, and speaking of the cost, so what I call American pricing and Mexican pricing. And so for people that come here, the big thing is, if you're not very experienced, if you see a menu or anything with prices, is a gold mine. Because if you don't see prices and you just order stuff, that same taco or that same beer or whatever can be 2, 3, 10 times the amount of cost. So they know, they're no fools when they can. In many places, they'll give you the American price. So little key hint, anytime you see the prices or ask for the price ahead of time, the better off you are. And I find prices very interesting here altogether. So by me, there's a Walmart, a Home Depot, an AutoZone, an Applebee's, a Little Caesars, a couple more. And then there's all your Mexican places that you would expect. And a lot of these, Home Depot, Office Max, Walmart, even like Cali Max, grocery store, they have a lot of similar prices, which I find really bizarre. But also, we've now just realized, as like 2-3 weeks ago, when you go to the market and you go to the things on the street, we can buy 5, give or take, avocados and like 2 bags full of vegetables and spend like $10. It is awesome. She's vegan. I'm like 85-90% vegan. I love my vegetables. So that is huge for us. And it's just crazy. And that same, like I said, the Walmart, the Cali Max, like the avocados and stuff are very similar to San Diego. But you can go down to the market and you can spend like a quarter on one. So it's cool and can be frustrating.
So I had a question, Mike. Maybe a year ago, went with some friends and my wife to an Airbnb, and we actually took Uber from Tijuana, and it was down to actually K38 area. And did you say you rode Lyft? Is Lyft also available in Northern Baja now? Or did you take Uber?
I have not used either here. And no, I don't believe Lyft is at all. Uber might be.
Oh yeah,
But I
Uber
don't
is
know.
incredibly cheap. From what I've seen, it's incredibly cheap in Mexico, which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we live outside La Paz in kind of like a little bedroom community. And it's about 20-25 minutes to get into like the center of La Paz. And the average Uber ride, when you can get one, is $5 or $6. And when I say when you can get one, it's because you can always get one from La Paz to here, but getting one back into town, if they're not here, they have to be out here dropping someone else off. So we kind of play the waiting game, but incredibly cheap. Some things, like we have a lot of work being done to our house, incredibly cheap. Labor is so cheap. But if you want a dishwasher, because your dishwasher is broken on the house you just bought, incredibly expensive. And nobody sells them. It's almost impossible to buy a dishwasher in Mexico or other electronic devices. Some stuff is just through the roof expensive. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've been going nuts with that one, and we actually ordered one, got it shipped to California, brought it over. Actually ended up being the wrong size, and we made a mistake. So there went all my hair. Yeah, that's a nightmare for sure. So let's see. Let's see if the screen sharing works. I was thinking I can show my place and talk a little bit about the cost difference there. And yeah, so let's check that out. All right, so like I said, we're in a condo building. We're on the 14th floor. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So this is our balcony here. Nice, beautiful ocean view. This is the outside area. Those little round ones are mini hot tubs. And then you got 3 pools. Where that roof hut there is, that's a little workout room. This is our hallway walking into the place. So this is our place. This is like 3-4 weeks in. So this is my office coming together. Nice little bathroom, kitchen. Nice, beautiful place. I love the tile. Everything really is pretty sweet. All good furnishings. And so this place is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And our place in Ocean Beach, we were on Long Branch, about a block and a half away from the beach. We were in a 4-plex little apartment unit, which was 2-bedroom, 1-bath versus 3-bedroom, 2-bath here. And we're paying $500 less a month in rent than we were in Ocean Beach.
Wow, and such an amazing view you have down there.
Mm-hmm. So the only caveat is the elevators is a big thing. There's been plenty of times where the elevators have gone out, and luckily there's 2 sets of elevators, and sometimes one works and the other one does. Unfortunately, we have the side that works less often, and they work most of the time, but there are definitely times where the elevators aren't working, and that could suck because that's 14 flights of stairs. And when you have a dog and you go walk the dog down, going down the 14 flights, walk the dog, and then come right back up, it's a good little workout. So there is that.
So Mike, my alarm just went off. It is 12:55. So you got a few minutes to wrap it up. This has been great, but yeah, so continue. And I'm tempted just to say, if you guys want to keep going as long as you want, that's perfectly fine. But if people have to jump off the call at 1, we totally understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm good with whatever. I don't have to be off right at 1. And I also didn't really incorporate much about my business with this. But either way, I did put my info in the chat, and I'm just gonna put it again so it's easy for people to get to if they want to connect with me for any reason at all, talk more about Mexico, traveling, coaching, achieving your goals, anything, open to a conversation, get to know each other, who can we serve, how can we help others, and I'm always willing to have those conversations, and I'm always willing, if it seems to be a good fit and something that might be valuable for me to work together with somebody, you can always do a sample session or 2 that's complimentary, where people can get a real experience and know what they're getting into, what the value is, how could I actually help them, type of thing, before they spend any money with me at all. So just want to throw that out there before I forget. Other than that, wrapping up with Mexico, I can't really think of anything else to add at the moment. If anybody else has got any other questions or thoughts, open to that. And I also just want to say I appreciate everybody chiming in, and it was a great conversation for me. So this was awesome.
That was great, Mike. I really enjoyed this today. It's given me a lot to think about here. Maybe you guys will see me down there one of these days. I got to get, so take care.
Alrighty, have a good one, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's, my wife and I have actually discussed moving down to that area. So I learned quite a few things.
Nice.
And definitely, Mike, I would encourage you to connect with Brighton, because Brighton, you work with a lot of coaches, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And because
That's
you both
pretty
live
much
in Mexico. You both live in Mexico. You got that in common as well.
There we go. Yep. Cool.
Brandon, is your info in the chat somewhere?
Actually, I was about to send you an email, so I'll send you an email, and then you will have that. So,
Wonderful, cool. I'll save the chat and I'll look for your email, which would be even better. So great.
Sounds. Thanks much, and thanks, Chuck, for the ping to make sure that I saw that this was the topic.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you jumped on. It was great to see you, Brighton. I can't wait to come visit.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm waiting for my vaccine before I do too many long trips. So
Yeah.
great to see you, and thanks for jumping on the call.
Okay, we'll see y'all. Thanks.
All right,
Have a
take
good
care.
one, bud.
Bye.
Good job, Mike. Thank you so much. You did really good. I'm sorry you didn't have more time to talk about, your business, but I thought it was a lively discussion. Almost everyone participated. There were a couple people that didn't, but almost everyone else threw in some comments and questions. So I thought that went really well. I really enjoyed it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And I could have incorporated more about the business, but it seemed like it was a fun, lighthearted conversation and people were enjoying it. And I just kind of stuck to that. And like I said, my contact info is in the chat, so people can absolutely reach out if they want to know or have anything about coaching and that stuff. So
that's a really good point. And if someone is planning on uploading this to YouTube, if you're okay with that.
Please.
But with YouTube, they don't get to see the information in the chat. So if someone is watching right now on YouTube, why don't you give whatever contact information you would like?
The easiest in that case would be designedlifegrowth@gmail.com. So all one word, no periods, underscores, designed ED at the end, life growth.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I hope you have a great afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you on another call soon.
Awesome. You too, bud. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye, Mike.